Alright guys, so this is the spoiler review for Avengers Endgame. You can do the same thing I did in my non-spoiler review. There are spoilers in this video. I'm going to spoil Endgame in this video. There will be spoilers in this video. I'm going to spoil and ruin this movie for you if you continue to watch and have not seen this movie. Go see the movie if you have not seen the movie. Now I've said this like 10 times in the past 30 seconds. I'm going to spoil the movie. Alright, we're starting. So I'm kind of just going to break this down act by act and kind of go through the scenes that stuck out to me. And so starting at the very, very opening of the movie is Hawkeye's family getting dusted. And I mean, I saw this coming, but I think it was a great way to set the tone for the movie and to open the movie. It's kind of, you know, this affects everyone, this affects the everyday family, and showing how it kind of ties Hawkeye into all of this right at the beginning before you start telling the rest of the story, kind of bringing him into the loop. And then from there is, if you watched my non-spoiler review, is where the movie kind of starts to go a little bit downhill for me. And so, you know, they have the little talking moments where it's like, oh yeah, okay, the stuff you see in the trailer, you know. He has the stones, let's go get the stones and use them to bring everyone back. You know, you've seen all this in the trailer. And so, with that, they go to Thanos, and they find out that he's destroyed them, and they kill him. I was severely frustrated when I saw this. I know he wasn't dead. I'm not stupid. There's still 2 hours left of the movie. More than that, I know he's not dead. But I think it kind of like lowered the threat of Thanos. Of, oh, I just saw him die, you know. So it just kind of, that kind of threw me off. And then honestly, I know they're kind of building, like, you know, the depression, the tone for, oh, well, this is what it's been like for those 5 years. You know, Thor's fat now, Captain America runs his Alcohol Anonymous thing, and Iron Man has a family and he's done. But I feel like maybe it was just a little bit too much of that. I felt like it was just really weak and dragged on in that beginning. Like they kept going and going and going until Iron Man kind of comes to the compound, until they kind of start planning the scene where they're planning on how they're going to get each individual stone back, and kind of they've gotten to the time travel part. That's where I think the movie really picks up. That's where I think it becomes a great movie. I think that's a really strong scene too, is that planning scene of the stones. Kind of, if you've been a long time fan, you can kind of see, oh yeah, this is where this originated, you know where this originated, and you get to go back and see them going back to some of your favorite movies. I think the time travel, while, you know, time travel can be confusing in movies, they did it pretty well for the most part. You know, there's some holes you could poke in the plot here and there. I think for the most part they did that really well, and the actual scenes where they went back in time, you know, going back to New York, going to Guardians, going to all these different movies, I think they're all really strong for the most part. I had a problem with, not so much a problem, but I feel it could have been stronger if they killed off Hawkeye instead of Black Widow. The whole point of the Soul Stone, kind of, from my interpretation of it, is that you have to give up something that you love for you to get the stone. And so from what happened in the movie, that would imply that Hawkeye loved Black Widow. Which, I mean, the man had a family, you know. I was kind of under the interpretation that he lost everything, he had nothing left. I really thought they were going to say, oh, well, Black Widow loves Hawkeye. And Hawkeye was going to kind of have to go through, like, the moral decision of, okay, I'm sacrificing myself to bring my family back. You know, he has nothing left, he wants to bring the people back. He doesn't love Black Widow, but she loves him, and then he would have had to sacrifice himself. I thought that's where they were going to go with it. It's not where they decided to go with it. I still think it's fine what they did, but I think my version of it probably would have been stronger in my opinion. I know he wouldn't have got the reunite with his family at the end, like we saw, but I still think my version would have worked better for me anyways. And then you kind of have just them messing around. You get to see some extra, like, footage to kind of like after what happens in the first Avengers. You know, what do they do in the Stark Tower, in the Avengers Tower? Some Loki stuff, some cool stuff in there. The Captain America versus Captain America fight was great. You know, all the time travel scenes were good. And then before we get to like the big third act, the huge fight that I'm gonna break down, I want to just talk about the individual characters. I felt like everyone was great, especially Nebula. Honestly, I didn't care about Nebula in Infinity War. I didn't care about her in the Guardians movies. I barely liked the Guardians, so I really didn't care at all about Nebula. But this movie kind of brought her out more. It kind of played her character more of, especially seeing how she's changed from kind of the slave of Thanos into the character she is now. And just a quick plot hole, kind of jumping ahead a little bit, I do want to bring this up. Like, based off of like regular time travel stuff, if she killed herself, I think she should be dead, like in the future if she killed her past self. But whatever, that's just stupid time travel complications that we won't get into. Let's get into the third act. So the third act, I liked. It started out strong. I wasn't blown out of my seat at the very beginning of it. I'm talking, I saw Hulk using the gauntlet coming. Thanos attacks, blows up the whole compound. I thought Hulk was going to get crushed underneath the compound, saving Rocket and War Machine. I think that would have maybe thrown a good conclusion to Hulk's character on there, but I guess they want to use him a little bit more since they built up this Professor Hulk character now. I think the fighting was solid. I saw, if you watch my predictions video, I saw Captain America using the hammer. I saw that coming. I think that was a really strong scene. He was getting his ass kicked. I liked the amount of screen time they give Captain America. I've liked Captain America more and more as the MCU's progressed, and honestly, I thought he was going to die when he was just kind of laying there not getting up. I think a lot of people thought this going into the movie, just thought that Captain America was going to die in this movie. But that isn't what happens, as you know, because if you're 7 minutes into this spoiler review and you have seen the movie, pretty much just ruined the whole movie for you, so I warned you like 19 times. But continuing, it's not that I found anyone weak. I found that Captain America was the standout character in this movie. I don't think they gave Iron Man a whole lot. Honestly, he had, in my opinion, a whole lot more in Infinity War. This was more than Civil War, his role in Civil War, but I don't think they gave him a whole lot. It was just more Captain America, and I don't have a problem with that. I'm not saying that they gave Iron Man an inadequate amount of time in the movie. I just think that they gave him a lot less than they usually give him, which is fine by me. I still think he had a strong character arc from just the beginning of the end of the movie, but more importantly kind of from the beginning of the MCU to his conclusion in this movie. And while I don't think this movie hits as emotionally hard as Avengers Infinity War with the snap, it still has those heavy beats. I mean, I did not expect Iron Man to die in this movie. Now, it didn't hit me hard, it didn't hit me that hard. I still enjoyed it. I was still able to be like, okay, wow, I enjoyed that his death was earned. It wasn't, like, oh, well, they built this character up for 11 years and they're just killing him for effect. His death was earned. He redeemed himself. He's the reason they were able to go through with the whole plot, and he's the one who defeated Thanos in the end. And, I mean, just the fight itself at the end is just fantastic. I mean, I don't really have to go into detail about the fight. You saw the fight. You know how amazing that fight was. When Captain America says Avengers assemble and just everybody is there on the one frame and they're all fighting Thanos' army, it's just a fantastic piece of the movie. It kind of, if you like me and kind of grew up with these characters for the past 11 years, it kind of just seeing like your whole childhood all on the screen in one frame is just fantastic to kind of end the conclusion to what you've been watching your whole childhood. Alright, so now that we have the pros of that third act out of the way, I do want to dip into the cons. Like I said, the second act, I didn't really have a lot of cons with the second act. I already explained my first act cons. My second act, I kind of want to get the good stuff out of the way so we can get to the bad. I guess just some plot hole point things. Professor Hulk explaining the whole time travel thing. if you kind of break it apart, I don't know if it holds up that well, but it doesn't affect the movie that well. If you're thinking about it that hard, you're trying to pick it apart. So the second act is fine. The third act, there were two in particular scenes that bothered me in the third act. Nothing major to ruin the whole act, but there were two scenes that the person I saw the movie with pointed them out in the theater. And so if you saw my ranking of the movies, you know I hate Captain Marvel. It's not that I have a problem with the women characters. I like Gamora, I like Black Widow, I like Nebula like I just said. I like Mantis, everyone's great. But Captain Marvel, I'm just not a fan. Don't like her character. I don't know what the problem was with her individual movie, but I just didn't feel that she earned, the ending here. And, well, they kind of did the right thing and kept her out of the majority of the movie so she wouldn't carry the movie. The brand new character carrying the movie. I still think, she destroys Thanos' entire ship. She stops him from snapping. She gets a couple good hits in. She kind of saves the day as much as Iron Man does, which she does to an extent. And I kind of just didn't want to see her after they said, oh well, she's gonna be busy for a while. I was kind of hoping, got my hopes up she wasn't gonna be in the rest of the movie. But then she came in at the end, and I don't know. They could make Captain Marvel 2, and it could be great, And then I could love Captain Marvel. But just right now, I'm not a fan of Captain Marvel. And then the other scene I want to talk about is a lot more controversial. I don't think I've seen anybody talk about this scene, and I don't know if I even want to talk about this scene, but in the end fight, they kind of have a women's scene, if that's what you want to call it, where they kind of throw everybody, all of the women heroes, on screen, and kind of all on one frame, fighting. And like I said, I don't have a problem with the women superheroes, perfectly fine with that, but it kind of sticks out when you throw them all on screen together and make a point that they're all women. If you could have thrown a couple dudes in there, I wouldn't have noticed it, wouldn't have had a problem. But the fact that, they did that on purpose. They did that so you notice, hey, these are strong women role models, and that's fine and all. I just found it distracting from the fight. If I get shit for that, it's fine. It's my review. That's what I thought about that particular scene. Like I said, didn't ruin the scene. That was perfectly fine. And then we're going to talk about kind of the conclusion of the movie. And with Steve Rogers kind of getting old, I predicted that. I don't know how the hell I predicted that, but I predicted that. And, I wasn't spot on with what, how he comes back and any of that, but I predicted him getting old and staying back with Carter. And so I really like that ending. I would think that Bucky would have been a stronger candidate to become Captain America, but I do like what they did as far as bringing him back as an old man. I think that was a strong way to have the character exit after already killing off Iron Man. Let's then jump to the Iron Man scene. The Iron Man kind of funeral scene, I guess. The boy in that scene is the kid from Iron Man 3, by the way. The kid behind, Scarlet Witch and all of them is the boy from Iron Man 3, if you didn't know that. So, just putting that out there before we get into that. I found that his funeral scene wasn't as strong as I expected a funeral scene for the main character from the beginning to be. I found his death scene better than his funeral scene, which I just was surprised by that. No means was the funeral scene bad, or kind of broke the immersion of the movie. It was just not as emotionally heavy as I expected the funeral scene to be. Now with that, I think that sums up the movie pretty much. Like I said in my non-spoiler review, it's a 9 out of 10, my second favorite Marvel movie. I think Infinity War tops this, had more surprises, kind of caught me off guard more, which is what I like in a movie. By no means is a bad movie though. Definitely, you shouldn't be here if you haven't seen the movie, but go see this movie again, because there's a lot to track here. It's another part of this movie, I guess, is that there's a lot going on. In Infinity War, I felt like it was manageable to track everything, whereas with this, it's more, there's just so much going on, and trying to keep all in your head what's going on in this movie, and then how it impacts previous Marvel movies is kind of a lot. So I do think this is something, whether, you know, you don't have to see it, you don't have to pay $10 twice to go see it, but I do think you should watch this movie 2, maybe 3 times, and kind of just to get the overall picture of how everything's playing in. Like I said, great movie. Hope you guys enjoyed it too, and I'll see you guys on the next one.